spaceship has landed, and that's true logic. So today I'm going to briefly talk about artificial intelligence. Word. Okay. Facebook has been working a lot on artificial intelligence in its recent years. In fact, it was about a year or two ago, Facebook actually created an artificial intelligence that would be an automated response system to messages, if I remember correctly. However, something super intriguing happened in the midst of this creation. Apparently, the artificial intelligence system that they developed somehow learned how to create its own language, right? That means beyond the language that the programmers put into it, the artificial intelligence actually learned the ability to think for itself, quote unquote, right? That is, it was able to form new connections between words and ideas that had not been officially programmed into it. In fact, this artificial intelligence's ability to do so apparently startled Facebook so much that they shut the entire project down, right? They were like, oh shit, we got Terminator on our hands, right? But nonetheless, Facebook is still working on artificial intelligence. Recently, I came across an article on my LinkedIn. Cannot give you the source for that, apologies, but according to this article, Facebook also has an algorithm for artificial intelligence. I think it's called Fashion Plus Plus, in which the artificial intelligence can actually be a stylist, right? So this artificial intelligence can recognize texture, color, patterns, prints, and different things like that. And it can also recognize, silhouettes. It can recognize different combinations of items and so forth. And using all of this data from photos and other inputs, the algorithm is able to then style an individual. That is, the algorithm in the artificial intelligence is able to decide whether or not an individual is stylist or is styleful or unstyleful. I don't know why I jumbled there. But that's a super cool thing to do. Would you allow yourself to be styled by an artificial intelligence? Or do you think that artificial intelligence can create true style, right? Which brings me forth to the primary question of the day, which is, are there any human skills and abilities or activities that an artificial intelligence cannot replicate? If so, why not? Okay? Now, we've seen thus far that artificial intelligence systems at this point can do a lot of things. Styling is a pretty cool thing, right? If back in college, one of the primary debates in philosophy was whether or not an artificial intelligence can, say, replicate an emotion, right? Well, in order to answer that question, we have to first ask ourselves, on a fundamental level, what is an emotion actually, right? Now, there are several ways to interpret this question and what it means to feel things and have an emotion, right? Now, ancient societies and ancient people would attribute things like human feelings and human emotions to things such as, the soul and so forth and other internal aspects of themselves. However, for those that don't believe in a soul, there's the strict biological response and interpretation for what our emotions and feelings are, right? And that is simply to say that your emotions are chemicals, dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, oxycodone, and oxytocin, and so forth, right? That when your body produces certain chemicals, your brain reacts in a certain type of way that we dub our emotions, right? An external stimulus occurs, your body responds with a given set of hormones or emotions. Subsequently, you are sad or so forth because of the serotonin levels in your body, right? Now, if you relate this reasoning to computers and artificial intelligence, then the answer to the question, can an artificial intelligence successfully replicate an emotion? The answer is obviously, well, no, because emotions are strictly tied to the biology that expresses and represents and creates them. And any entity, be it an artificial intelligence or otherwise, that lacks those biological qualities subsequently lacks the ability to show emotion, right? However, one might counter-argue that emotions are not necessarily inherently biological. insofar as one can replicate the fundamental aspects of what an emotion is attempting to express, which then begs the question again, what on a fundamental level are those components of being that are expressed when humans are expressing emotions? For example, at its core fundamental level, what is the state of happiness? Is it simply dopamine and serotonin levels in your body at certain states? Or are there other deeper physical aspects of happiness that is more directly correlated to, say, our protons and neutrons that could then be somehow replicated into a computer or artificial intelligence device, right? Now, this question is certainly open-ended because we do not yet fully understand human biology, human anatomy, and human physiology enough to know for sure what the primary answer to those questions is, right? But again, the questions are always about breaking down the human brain and the human mind on a fundamental level, right? So we have to ask that question. Is happiness simply an inherent biological response to external stimuli? Or are there deeper aspects of what we call emotions that on an intricate level can be translated to another device, right? Which would mean at its core level that there's something in the state of emotions that is shared by all entities that can physically replicate them. That is to say that what we call emotions are at their core level fundamentally physically similar to other physical entities in the universe that are capable of also replicating emotional states, right? Now, humans are not the only animals on the planet that have feelings and emotions, right? One of the most common and most human-friendly pets, because we've domesticated them for over 30,000 years, are dogs, right? And dogs actually feel emotions. Now, whether or not they feel the emotions to the degree and extent that humans do is a debate, right? Because then that's a question of phenomenal experience and qualia, and in terms of what it's actually like on a phenomenal level to be in a state of feeling, which is very difficult, obviously, to translate between species, right? But then again, that goes back to the point of that underlying physical similarity between the qualities of those species, right? Do dogs who experience emotional states, do they share any fundamental physical similarities to humans beyond just the sheer biology itself, right? All data is information. All experience is information, right? From a strict physical viewpoint, right? If all the phenomena in the universe and the world are inherently connected to each other, then that means that it's all physical data and all physical information, and the difference between one entity and another entity really is arbitrary insofar as there are two different representations of the same underlying physical data and information, right? At least that's the ultimate point behind the unifying theory of physics, right? So, if we take the unifying theory of physics to be true and to say that all phenomena are fundamentally defined by the same physical states, right? That means at their components, the things that we call emotions, all those conscious experiences of humanness and so forth, are essentially just physical, right? But to what degree is that physicality itself dependent on the specific combination of components that create human physiology or animal physiology more so, right? Now, that's a scary thought, right? It's a sort of the ghost in the machine idea. It's an idea that a lot of people, especially traditionally, Abrahamic people who believe in Christianity, Judaism, or Islam, or religions like that, definitely have their reasons for showing some of these ideas, right? The idea that a machine can replicate human emotion, because again, ancient societies typically connected human emotions and feelings and passions to the soul. And for those ancient societies and ancient philosophies, the soul was immaterial, and subsequently, because it's immaterial, it cannot be replicated by any physical device. So they would say, no, computers definitely can't feel emotions. However, if you interpret physicalism from an incredibly broad viewpoint, you might be able to say that there's a way in which at least what we call emotions, or rather the experience of emotions, can at the very least be simulated by a machine, right? Now, again, the translation of phenomenal experiences from one species to another is incredibly complicated. But doing that between two individuals is already complicated enough, but still easily enough, because at least there's both humans, right? But to say that a robot is feeling sad compared to a human is difficult to say, insofar as, well, we can never truly understand on any phenomenal level what the experience of sadness would be like for that robot. However, we do already understand enough from technology and virtual reality and so forth that some experience can at least be simulated, which again begs the question, to what extent can an artificial intelligence simulate feelings such that a real human could not tell the difference between a simulated feeling by an artificial intelligence and the real, quote-unquote, feelings of an actual human being? That is the question. Now, an individual that is able to solve that will likely make a huge stride in computer science. Let me know what you think in the comments. Spaceship blasting off.